Hi friends, Juan the Yarn Addict here, bringing you another stitch pattern tutorial. For today, we will be covering the Acorn Cluster Stitch Pattern. It's super nice. This works up into any odd number of chains, plus one for the beginning chain, and this is a 4-row repeat. So row 1 is the setup row, row 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the repeats. And so what you're seeing here are 3 repeats, just to kind of show you what this looks like. And if you notice, the clusters are not stacked on top of one another. They're worked in between, so they're on the bias. There's a bit of a diagonal here, which is super nice. You can really see it on this side here. And so the yarn that I used for this is Premier's Anti-Peeling Bamboo Chunky. And the colorway here is called Earl Grey. And this is a bulky 5-weight yarn, and the hook that I used was a 6.5mm crochet hook. Now this particular pattern will work up in any weight of yarn that you choose. I do suggest though that you follow the recommended hook size for the yarn of your choice. This is super nice and I can't wait to get started. So let's go ahead and get started on this tutorial. Okay friends, so to get started what we want to do is create a slip knot on our hook. However you do this is absolutely fine. This is how I do it. And from here what we want to do is chain up any odd amount. So this particular stitch pattern works up in an odd number of chains plus one for the beginning chain. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and chain 21. And I will be right back as soon as I have my 21 chains. Okay friends, so now that I have my 21 chains, what we're going to do is chain one more for the beginning chain. And then we're going to start row 1. So to start row 1, what we want to do is go into the second chain from the hook. So this little nubby here is the first one. This is the second one. So we're going to go into the chain, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through 2. From here, we're going to go next door and do another single crochet, go into the next chain, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through 2. So now what we want to do is chain 2. 1 and 2. After your 2 chains, you're going to go back into the chain you just came out of with a single crochet. So it should look like a single, 2 chains, and a single, all in the one chain. From there, we're going to skip the next chain and go into the next one here and repeat that single, chain 2, and single. So single, chain 2, and single, just like that. And that's going to be the repeat for the very first row. So we're going to skip the next chain, go into the next one, and do a single, chain 2, and single. And that's what we're looking like so far. Okay. So continue on with that, and I will see you at the end of row 1. Okay friends, so as I'm getting to the end of row 1, I have 3 chains remaining. So I have my single, chain 2, and single. I'm going to skip the next chain and go into the second from the last chain, and I'm going to go in there and do a single, chain 2, and a single. So there's the single, chain 2, and a single, just like that. Okay, and I should have 1 chain remaining, so in that very last chain we're going to go ahead and do a single crochet. Let me make a bunny ear here and just show you the first row. Now it looks all spiraled out, and rightfully so, because we've added chains to our stitches here, so that will actually iron itself out momentarily. But I wanted to point out that at the beginning of row 1 and at the end of row 1, you should have 2 single crochets back to back. There's the 2 there. And then in the very beginning, you have your first 2 single crochets. Right here and right here. Okay, feel free to rewind and replay just so that you have it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start row 2. Okay friends, so to start row 2, what we want to do is go back in here and chain 3 and then turn our work. So 1, 2, and 3. Let's turn our work. And for row 2, we're going to work into these bumps here. So these bumps are the chains that we've created from row number 1. And if you have to, just use your fingers to feel your way through here. Okay, so the stitch that we're going to put in here is a double crochet cluster. So it's going to be 3 double crochets crocheted together. So to do that, we're going to yarn over, go into that chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and leave it as is, just like that, with 2 loops remaining on your hook. We're going to repeat that 2 more times. So we're going to yarn over, go into the chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2. We're going to do it one more time. So yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 only, and you should have 4 loops on your hook. From here, what we're going to do is yarn over, go through all 4 loops, and then chain 1 to lock. From here, we're going to jump right into the next chain space here and repeat what we just did. So we're going to yarn over, go in, drop a loop, yarn over, go through 2. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times, and I'm going to do that silently so you can just watch. And that's it. Okay, so continue doing that, and I will see you at the end of row number 2. Okay friends, so I am wrapping up row number 2. There are 2 stitches remaining. There are 2 single crochets side by side. And if you turn over your work, you can see what I mean by that. So back when we started row number 1, I mentioned that row number 1 will start and end with 2 singles. And so what we want to do to finish row number 2 is go into this very first single with a double. So we're going to yarn over, go into that very first single crochet, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, just like that. Okay? So from here, what we want to do is chain 1 and turn our work to go into row number 3. For row number 3, what we want to do is work into the chain spaces in between our clusters. Okay, so we're not going to be working into any stitches for this pattern. We've completed that down here. Okay, so what we want to do is go into these chain spaces with a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So we're going to go in, do our single, chain 2, and go back in and do our single crochet. Just like that. From here, we're going to jump right next door here to this chain space and do the same thing. Single, chain 2, and single. Very, very easy. Okay, so insert single, chain 2, singles in all of these spaces here. Okay, continue doing that, and I will see you at the end of row number 3. Okay friends, so I am at the end of row number 3, and so to finish row number 3, what we want to do is go into the space here where we had 3 chains, and we're going to follow the same sequence here, which is a single, chain 2, and then a single, just like that. Okay, so that concludes row number 3. To start row number 4, what we want to do is chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And from here, we're going to turn our work. Now, if you notice, these chain spaces are in the center between 2 of the clusters in row number 2. Okay, I'm saying all of that because if I put a cluster here, our project will then go out this way. So to keep it straight, what we're going to do is put half of one of the clusters. So in this particular chain space that we just finished, what we're going to do is go in there with just a double crochet, just like that. From here, we're just going to chain 1 and hop over to the next chain space and continue on with our cluster. So just to recap, it's a yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 only, and then we're going to repeat that 2 more times. Once we have the 3 stitches and 4 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and go through all 4 loops and chain 1 to lock. So continue on with this cluster, and I will see you at the end of row number 4. Okay friends, so here I am at the end of row number 4, and what I need to do now to make this straight is to not do a cluster with 3 stitches. What we're going to do is do 2 stitches together. So we're going to yarn over, go into this space here, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 only, yarn over, go back in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 only, and you should have just 2 stitches on your hook with 3 loops. So with that, we're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops just like that. And if you notice, we're straight. Okay, so there it is. We have alternating rows with these little acorns in between, so it's super nice. So for row number 5, we're actually going to be repeating rows 1 and 3. So from here, what we're going to do is chain 1 and turn our work. So what we're going to do, because this was not a full cluster, what we're going to do is go into the top of this particular stitch with a single crochet, just like that. And now we're going to go into our spaces here with our sequence of single, chain 2, and singles, just like that. We're going to jump over here, do a single, chain 2, and single. One more time, single, chain 2, and single. And this is what we're looking like. Okay, so continue doing this, and I will see you at the end of row number 5. Okay friends, so here we are at the end of row number 5. Okay, and so like we did down here in row number 1, I mentioned that the first and the last singles are butted up against our little sequence here. So in the very beginning, we did a single and then a single, chain 2, single. So we had the 2 singles side by side here. We want to repeat that down here. So now that I'm at the end here, I have a single, chain 2, and a single. I need to put a single into this space right here. So we're going to go in, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through 2, just like that. Okay, so that is the end of the sequence here. So what we're going to do is just continue repeating this whole entire sequence. So row number 6 will be the same as row number 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, so just for good measure, I'm going to get us through another one of these cluster rows here. Okay, so for row number 2, which is now row number 6, what we're going to do is chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to work directly into our chain spaces here in between the singles. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and do my cluster. just like this. Once I have 4 loops on my hook, I'm going to yarn over and go through all 4 and chain 1 to lock. Okay, and that's pretty much it, and we're going to do that in every one of these chain spaces here. Okay, so continue with that, and I will see you at the end of row 6. Okay friends, so I am at the end of row number 6, and like we did in row number 2, we're going to go into the last stitch of the row here from the previous row and do a double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, and do a double crochet just like that. And there we have it. Okay, so all you're doing is repeating rows number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we just did row 2 and then just continue repeating. So I'm going to do several more rows to just show you what this looks like on a bigger scale, and I'll be right back. Okay friends, so I've done several more rows, and this is what we're looking like here. This is what the other side looks like. Very nice. So my friends, if you enjoyed this stitch pattern tutorial, please feel free to give me a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And then of course hit those notifications to stay updated with everything regarding me and my channel. It's been fun friends, and until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.